Marianne Williamson, based on her polling, belongs on the debate stage also. I don't think she is running the campaign that I think needs to be run, which we could get into. But let's start with RFK. Besides the vaccine stuff, which I'll get to, because that's, to me, that's the deal breaker. Besides the vaccine stuff, I think a lot of people are kind of jumping on to RFK just because maybe the vaccine stuff, maybe they look at, oh, he's been good on the environment, which he has been good on the environment for sure. I'll give him that. But it's ironic to me because these are the same people. A lot of these people, I will never vote for another Democrat again. If you even entertain voting for a Democrat, you're a sellout. But RFK jumps in to the Democratic primary. We love RFK. You gotta love their intellectual consistency, right? And I'm not hating on it. I thought it was stupid in the first place. I voted for Jill Stein in 2016. I voted for Green Party before in other races. I'm not a vote blue no matter who person, but I'm also not stupid enough to say I will never vote for someone, even if there's someone that I'm impressed with or I believe in or I think will actually get in there and fight if they have a D next to the name. I think that is stupid. It's pushed by people who know nothing about politics. It's pushed by people that, frankly, get a lot of clicks off of just being absolutists and nihilists, but don't actually have a plan to seize power. So I'm not saying don't entertain RFK because he's running as a Democrat. I just find it ironic that a lot of these Jimmy Dore types who, burn it down, we will never vote for a Democrat. A lot of his followers and a lot of followers of his mini-me channels that like to suck him off to get clicks, they're on the RFK train. So very interesting. But besides the vaccine stuff, RFK is pretty establishment and has a history of being pretty establishment. So it's weird to me that all of a sudden leftists like RFK, who's not just his last name, but is pretty establishment.
Welcome to a special edition of RBN Live. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick?
What's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome to RBN Saturday Live. This is our Rumble launch week, our Rumble launch weekend. We have a fantastic show for you. We have fantastic guests that join us. And one of the reasons why I don't support the strategy of quote unquote infiltrating the Democratic Party and pushing it left is that we factually see ever since that strategy was implemented, the Democratic Party shifting to the right. More Democrats voted to re-implement student loan debt than Republicans did. So how did that strategy go of shifting the Democratic Party left? Now the Democrat is funding ICE and cops more than Donald Trump did. So that strategy you guys had of pushing the Democratic Party to the left is a failure, and I am done with it. But there's much to say that because I want to talk about the student loan debt.
Let me just
a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So go ahead, CJ.
No, I was just gonna say before we bring Jimmy in, because I want to ask him about the clip. I just want to make this point. I don't know if the NATO left, Nick, are intentionally going like putting their fingers in their ear when we're telling them what we want to do. Yeah. Because they keep having this narrative of they have no plan to take power. Is the squad like are they taking power? Like what is he talking about? But anyway, I wanted to interject that before we bring in Jimmy. I'll let you introduce our guest, sir.
Yeah, we're gonna bring in a great American comedian, also has a powerful YouTube channel, Jimmy Dore Show, and friend of the show, friend of RBN Network. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day once again, Jimmy Dore.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. As I was just saying, we can start from there because I want to show you guys what the Democrats did, also with the Republicans, but I always got to emphasize this point because a lot of people believe that they are the lesser of two evil party. This from the Debt Collective. This debt ceiling bill permanently ends the pause on student debt payments. And we showed this segment yesterday where Joe Scarborough and Democrats are praising this bill and they essentially rubbing it in the working class faces. What's happened here? Student loan debt about to continue. Social spending was cut. And the crazy thing is you had a ton of progressive and liberal feminists who threw Me Too under the bus for this.
for that.
Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Jimmy, you have anything you want to add to this before I continue?
So it started with Bill Clinton and George Herbert Walker Bush. People voted for Bill Clinton because he was supposedly the lesser of two evil. He was not the lesser of two evil. He was the greater evil, as Thomas Frank pointed out in Listen Liberal, because he got things done that George Herbert Walker Bush, as a Republican, couldn't get done. What are you talking about, Jimmy? I'm talking about NAFTA, because George Herbert Walker Bush tried to pass NAFTA, and back then the Democrats still kind of represented working people, and the blue dog Democrats wouldn't go along with NAFTA. And then Bill Clinton came in, and he was this popular guy. He was this new, fresh kind of a new Democratic Leadership Council kind of guy, and he gave cover to those blue dog Democrats so they could then go ahead and cut the legs out from underneath labor for a generation. And then that leads to black and brown people in Milwaukee not voting for Hillary Clinton because they know what the fuck they did with NAFTA, and they also knew what they were trying to do with TPP as she was running. They were trying to pass it at the top of their lungs. Plus, the rest of those black and brown people knew that Bill Clinton passed the crime bill with with Joe Biden, and they put half of those people in prison. So, and then they voted for Barack Obama twice, and their lives got worse. So, this whole idea of voting for Democrats because they're the lesser of two evil is a complete failure. In fact, it's a backfire. It leads you to get Donald Trump. And then because of Donald Trump, Democrats en masse stop talking about anything that has to do with revolution or overturning the corporation or stopping the wars or anything like that, because we have this existential threat. This guy, Donald Trump, who is a Hitler and a Stalin and a KKK supremacist. He's none of those things. Donald Trump is a con man game show host who the establishment loved right up until the point where the deep state couldn't control him on foreign policy. And that was that. Okay, I'll stop talking.
I want people to remember that it was the Clintons that created the child poverty epidemic when they waged war against social programs in the 90s. It was Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton that raised childhood poverty. And then they bragged when Joe Biden became president, we lifted X amount of children out of poverty with the child bullshit tax credit. And then they allowed the tax credit to expire. Then they cut social spending. So they went from saying that, oh, we lift children out of poverty, which was always bullshit. And now they factually put more children in poverty because that's a long-term Clinton legacy. She did it in the 90s, and now Democrats are doing it again with Joe Biden in the New Deal. And we called this weeks ago. We said that this exact thing was going to happen, and which is why we didn't cover it, because you saw all the media pretend they didn't know what was going to happen, but this was obvious. It was obvious they need some sort of theater to justify bringing student loan debt back, because there's a lot of political pressure against Biden for doing this. And now young people are going to continue to be crushed. You're going to have families continue to be plunged into poverty. This is Bloomberg.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
The greatest magic trick that the Democratic Party pulled off was completely erasing a majority of the party that wanted to overthrow it, right?
Yeah.
And so when Bernie Sanders ran, he won that primary, right? Or came very close and should have, and he was winning primaries and 55% of the vote, and then she would win the primary because of the super delegates and shit like that.
Right.
And then the news were reported as if she won. Man, Joe Scarborough went on that famous rant about why they even have voting booths. What's the point of this, right? So the greatest magic trick was getting those people who were in the majority to take over the Democratic Party for sure in the next election, right? They were just all gone. Nobody ever even talks about that anymore. They just, because Bernie Sanders tucked his tail, he got scared. Whatever they did to threaten him, it worked. Yeah. And he completely abandoned his own movement. Again, just like Barack Obama did when he got elected, they abandoned their own youth movement. They asked them to do nothing ever. And then he just folded them back into an anti-worker, pro-war party, and then they had complete control of government for 2 years, and nobody, I mean, even the YouTube left, nobody tried to push that goddamn the Democratic Party to the left to do anything that even Joe Biden ran on. A fucking conservative maniac like Joe Biden ran on the minimum wage. He ran on those $2,000 checks. He ran on a public option. They didn't make him even do the things he ran on. That's how bad it is. Let alone pull him to the left. They all went to the right. It's unbelievable. And still, so that's to me the greatest magic trick the Democrats have figured out how to pull off. They just erased all those people, and they all became like, oh well, I'm not vote blue no matter who, but sometimes I'll vote in an inconsequential way for a third party person, so it all went away. The rage people had for the Democrats and Republicans serving the same donor class, they didn't even get rid of. Bernie didn't even make them get rid of super delegates. He didn't even make them get rid of the donor class. He didn't make them get rid of taking fossil fuel money. They do everything, and so that's why we're left's talking about bathrooms and gender affirming care and fucking drag shows and bullshit like this that only 0.5% of the population even participates in. And so that because they don't want to talk about the economic issues, the whole reason why we're talking about all this other stuff instead. Chomsky taught us that distraction is the best way to undermine democracy. And that's what all this is because the Democrats and the Republicans serve the exact same people. We get even worse policy now with the Democrats. Don't you think there would be a little bit of outrage if it was Donald Trump crushing that railroad union strike?
Absolutely.
There was zero because Joe Biden was doing it, just like because when Barack Obama kicked 5.1 million people out of their home, families out of their homes, while he made sure the bankers kept their bonuses, there was no outrage because you thought that this guy was on your side because he was black. And of course he wasn't. He was the biggest puppet that Wall Street ever had. Julian Assange and WikiLeaks revealed that his entire cabinet came from Citibank. And I thought that half the party had woken up to this fact, but all it took was Donald Trump to make everybody go back to sleep, and then calling people like us, all the names they call us.
I said before, we made a miscalculation because we thought the Bernie movement was bigger than it actually was, like meaning people that actually wanted to challenge the Democratic Party. We actually thought it was a movement. No, it was a bunch of liberals and Democrats who wanted healthcare. That's exactly what it was. And I was preaching on my channel, there needs to be way more anger at Bernie Sanders. The level of anger that we have for Bernie should be very commonplace. Because imagine if Bernie Sanders or any progressive endorsed Donald Trump. No, what do I mean by that? Joe Biden funds ICE more than Donald Trump. Joe Biden funds Israel more than Donald Trump. Joe Biden took COVID relief fund and gave it to the police. Woe Biden doubled down on everything Trump has done. So imagine the outrage, Jimmy. Imagine if you or anyone endorsed Donald Trump. There would be massive hatred for you. Biden, and there's not hatred for him for that. Right, Jimmy.
And it turns out they didn't want it. They didn't even dare try to repeal Donald Trump's tax cuts. They had complete control of government for fucking 2 years. And why didn't they repeal that? I said that's the whole crazy thing. Donald Trump didn't legislate any differently than most other fucking Republicans and other Democrats. The only thing he did is he didn't warmonger as much as other people did. And he was much more curt, crude in his language with shit. Right? Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were the ones who started scapegoating Mexican immigrants for our problems. Mm-hmm. You ever see those videos from C-SPAN? It's gross, man. It's shit. He used to say from the fucking White House. Not shit he would say on a camera. Anyway, so so here we are again. And the thing about RFK Jr., for me, is that it's always fun to see somebody actually speak out against what's actually wrong with our country. Right. And he's doing so. He's like 90, he's like 90% better. Like it was like when Tulsi was telling the truth about Syria and people would say, no, she's pro-war because she's for the drone war. I'm like, yeah, but she's the only person who's telling the truth about Syria. And then we work on her to get her away from the drone war. That's the way it's supposed to go. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater when you have something great that someone who's telling the truth, who's actually in the military, who's actually in Congress, who's actually willing to tell the truth and be called a Russian for doing so, which just revealed the Democratic Party of being as big a hypocrites as Donald Trump could ever be. Remember when they gave him shit about saying shit about the dead Gold Star family? Oh my God, everybody, you guys are saying that worse shit about someone who's currently serving in those bullshit fucking wars. And so that there was all faux outrage. So all their outrage about Donald Trump is all faux outrage. If you believe that they are outraged, that CNN and MSNBC and the political class at Donald Trump because he's lying in Washington, then I've got a bridge to sell you in Florida. What they're angry at Donald Trump is because he every once in a while tells a truth that you're not supposed to say, like, hey, the deep state is real and it's controlling things, and we're in Syria for the oil. We're taking the oil. That's why the troops are there. By the way, they just announced they're building another permanent base.
Yeah.
Permanent in fucking Syria. We control a third of that country, 33%. And that's the part where they have all the oil and the part where they grow all the food. And if Putin was doing that, we'd be calling him a monster. But of course, we're doing it right next door as we pretend like we're Boy Scouts trying to help the people of Ukraine. What we're really doing is seeing how many Ukrainians we can get slaughtered until they say what they're done. And so we can try to put an economic hurt on Russia. And it's not working. It's actually backfiring. All the things they said Donald Trump was going to do, make our friends turn against us and join alliances against us. That's happening now because Joe Biden is making people have economic alliances, like Russia is getting together with China, right? We cut off Germany from Russia because we feared that. That's why the Nord Stream pipeline, there was a plan to blow it up before Putin ever invaded Ukraine. And so now the BRICS is happening. So there's all these economic powers centers joining together. Now South America is going to have their own world currency. Africa, everybody's starting to come. Saudi Arabia is now starting to sell oil in other denominations than the U.S. greenback. So these are all the things that they said Donald Trump was going to bring, and that he was embarrassing us and nobody respected us. This is exactly what's happening right now because we're run by a bunch of homicidal, murderous maniacs who do blood money. That's all we have, a death economy. What we do, and we do, if people saw a map of all the military bases we have around the world, we have 400 military bases surrounding China since the Korean War. And we're pretending someone else is the terrorist in the world. And so now China and Russia are starting to bring peace to the world. And they're starting to go to Africa and invest instead of investing in civil war and trying to coup their leaders and then steal their natural resources, what NATO and the United States and the World Bank does, and the CIA. So they're bringing peace. They now have Syria back into the Arab League. They brought Iran talking back together with. So it's amazing the peace that's happening. And all the United States knows how to do is give billions of dollars to the CIA to go foment civil war and try to decapitate people, create instability like we did in Libya, which was the most successful country in all of Africa. Everybody had healthcare, everybody had food, everybody had education, everybody had a job. And then we went in there and we funded the ISIS and terrorism, and now it's a failed state, and nobody has anything, and they have open slave markets. That's what the United States does, and now China and Russia are coming in, and they're bringing peace to those places and investment. And the United States is being wiped out of the world. People are done. Even now, France is signaling they're done working with the United States, and they want people to stand up to us in relations to this Ukraine war. Wow. And so that's what's happened. They said all this was going to be happening with Donald Trump. It's all happening now because the neocon war maniacs that are sanctioned by Wall Street are back in charge in the military-industrial complex. But of course, nobody hears this story because if the news doesn't say it's a story, meaning Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper and Sean Hannity, if they don't say it's a story, then it isn't a story, and nobody fucking knows about it. And Americans don't know, as you always say, Nick, that they're the most propagandized country in the world. And so, all right, I'll stop talking.
All right, let me chime in. Yeah, let me just chime in really quickly because one of the things you said there, Jimmy, is that, like, I think corporate media, a lot of people are very surprised at the showing of RFK. And to your point that you're making, like, I'm not going to vote for a Democrat, but to speak to the point that you're making about RFK, the reason he is so, like, people are into him is because he's against the war. He's against a lot of things. And of course, the COVID thing, he's against, I think it's war and COVID, why people are for him. And it's so funny to see the NATO left, I played that clip, kind of act like, RFK is like way worse than Marianne Williamson. It's so ridiculous that RFK, and this is the thing, and I think that's what Jordan was speaking to in the video. When you're not part of the duopoly, you can talk about it unbiasedly. Like, so I'll say good things about RFK. I'll say good things about this person. It doesn't mean I'm going to support them, but they see that as a sort of support. And I just think it's very weird, Jimmy, and I just want to get your take on the Jordan video that we played earlier, calling people nihilists who don't want to support the Democratic Party, who's saying, I'm not involved in that. But it's curious to me that the NATO left, they find ways not to support RFK. Because if you're a person who's a leftist and you're saying, I'm going to support a Democratic person in the primary, the best choice is RFK. That's the best choice, not Marianne Williamson. Even if he doesn't believe in Medicare for all, and to that point, we have to stop thinking that leftist boils down to Medicare for all. It is we have to get out of that. Like, Medicare for all is not really a left thing. In other countries, conservatives want healthcare for everybody. So that is not it. But what is your reaction to the intro video from Jordan? I don't know if you saw it before today, but what is your reaction to some of the things he said?
I don't know. I didn't see it, but I wanted to make a point about wouldn't it be amazing? How exciting if there was an elected Democrat saying the things that RFK Jr. was saying? Like, wouldn't that be amazing? And then reporters would have to repeat it back to other politicians and say, "Hey, did you hear what this person said? And what do you say about that?" And then people would be talking about it, instead of now they're trying to pretend he doesn't exist and everything he says is crazy. And I've heard people say, like, I think Crystal Ball, might have said that it was a red line for her, that if about his stance on vaccines. And I was like, that's a funny thing. Like, hey, if you get vaccines right, I'm not going to vote for you. That's a weird thing to say.
That's a weird line. That's what I commented on as well. Like, I don't understand why someone's opinion on health policy is a red line, but someone voting to fund Nazis in Ukraine is not. Like, I don't understand the double standards that they have. And this is the same thing I hear all the time, where Jimmy Dore is canceled because it is. RBN's canceled every single day for X reason, but Bernie Sanders going for war, not cancelable. I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand your morality.
Bernie Sanders voting for the largest upward transfer of wealth in human history and getting fucking crumbs for it, as AOC said. That's not cancelable. Then
he just made a mistake. That's an oops, Jimmy.
That's an oops.
Oops, accidentally funded war.
Yeah, they're all fucking war pigs, and that's fine. Like, that's supposed to be the red line for being a lefty, is you're not supposed to be able to support empire and imperialism and the murdering of other brown people and whoever for economic gain from the military industrial complex in Wall Street. That's supposed to be a dividing line. But the Democratic Party is in bed with Wall Street and all those people. They all serve them. Bill Clinton and Al Gore started that thing called the Democratic Leadership Council. Do you know who was on the board of directors of the Democratic Leadership Council? Koch brothers people were on that board, and they funded it. And so that was the whole, and that's why they deregulated Wall Street. They were just about to kill Social Security. They were just about to privatize it. Bill Clinton had a secret deal to privatize Social Security, and what stopped it was the Monica Lewinsky scandal. That stopped everything. So it was Monica Lewinsky's blowjob is what saved Medicare for all, and that's. It saves Social Security, and that's according to Thomas Frank, right? And so, it's been over for a long time, which is why Ralph Nader ran in the first place, and why he was filling stadiums just like Bernie Sanders was. And they had to do every dirty trick in the world to keep him off the ballot, because people were hungry for a third party then. They're hungry for a third party all the time, but people always try to make it look like you're crazy. It's my favorite thing is that they say I'd like to vote for a third party, but they don't have a chance, which is like the same thing as saying, yeah, I'll vote for a third party after everybody else is already voting for a third party. It's like, well, how do you get that going? You have to start somewhere. You have to be that person. Right. And so it's like, I'll vote for a third party, but not until everybody is. Like, well, that doesn't.
Not until everyone is. And you want to know what you. Oh, sorry, Jimmy.
No, and it's just because of Bernie Sanders completely folded his whole thing. He started to slander peace activists, saying who's paying you when he's actually paying them. He's giving a $100 billion gift to the military-industrial complex with no oversight and no complaining from him. He's not out there complaining. He doesn't give a shit. And he didn't give a shit about the lockdowns. He didn't give a shit about mandates. All he does is pretend to care about those vaccines, that maybe they're making too much money off it. And he gets to, oh, by the way, he just said he voted against the budget deal. And he says, in good conscience, I couldn't. No, you could. Conscience. You did that because whoever actually runs things for the Democratic Party, those handful of billionaires, donors, they said, hey, Bernie, we got enough votes to pass this. You go pretend that you're actually a progressive. So you keep funneling that fucking progressive energy back into this establishment party. And that's exactly what that is. It's a psyop. It's bullshit. He's grandstanding like he did when he said when he got unemployment benefits put into the CARES Act. He didn't. That was a fucking lie. And every other goddamn YouTuber repeated that lie for Bernie Sanders. He actually lied because he knew what he did. And so he's lying now. So he's voting against this budget deal because he's allowed to vote against this budget deal.
Exactly.
He voted for the CARES Act because he wasn't allowed to vote against it. He voted for the Ukraine $100 billion to Nazis in Ukraine for a proxy war against Russia that was provoked by NATO for the last fucking 12 years. He wasn't allowed to vote. So that's who Bernie Sanders is. And he hasn't pulled Joe Biden to the left on fucking anything, including committing fascism by crushing a railroad union strike, which sets the tone for labor in the entire country. And Bernie Sanders supported that shit. So that guy is a weasel, and he doesn't have the courage of a fucking YouTuber. He certainly doesn't have the balls to talk to one who's going to be critical of him. And that guy. So people before me has made this point that it's worse having people like Bernie Sanders and AOC inside the Democratic Party elected because it gives the false hope to people that there's someone inside government fighting for you when there fucking isn't. That's exactly controlled opposition. It's clear to goddamn see. As soon as the Democrats lost control of the House, they they try to introduce their Medicare for All bill. Those motherfuckers, they're pissing right in fucking faces, and they take it. The Young Turks take it. MSNBC contract people take it. They all fucking just take it. Is that? And of course, Breaking Points takes it. They love that shit.
Yeah, you made a great point. There's so many things I want to get back to, but how Bernie kills the anger against the establishment, and I call it the toxic positivity of Bernie Sanders. And that's what it is. Like, if you go on YouTube, go on Bernie Sanders' YouTube channel if you ever want to get angry and watch his videos. And it's always, hey, we doing this project, everything's going okay. Yeah, Biden is gonna meet with it this day. We got the Biden Restore Act. It's always toxic positivity bullshit because they don't want people to be angry. They don't want to rile people up. Even as a student debt crisis is about to loom back over, they're like, oh, it's a shame that we didn't get what we want. I can't in good conscience vote for the bill. Instead of telling people to get in the fucking streets. Like, so your point and the point that others make that is actually more harmful for them to be in the Democratic Party. I had a conversation with Shama where she said the same thing. That's 100% the case. And we advocate for third parties for this reason. And this is why I believe that RFK and anyone who actually is serious anti-imperialist should run outside the Democratic Party. The same way that they are ignoring him now, they will try to ignore him as a third party. The same way that he's about to do a Twitter space with Elon Musk, he could do a Twitter space with Elon Musk as a third party. There's a lot of different techniques and tactics that you can use 100%. As a third party. And there are a lot of people who make a lot of bullshit excuses on why they don't want to run third party. Because at the end of the day, I think they just don't want to upset the establishment to a certain degree. There's a certain degree they don't want to upset the establishment. One more thing I want to say, because there's a lot to break down there. It's funny because you mentioned how people who argue against third parties, they say, well, third parties can't win. And it's like, all you gotta do is support those third parties. But people like Marianne, people like Crystal Ball, pretty much the same thing. Crystal Ball, they'll tell third party activists to grow up. That's what she said. She said, grow up if you support third parties. I'm gonna do the adult thing. I'm gonna support the candidate that's 2% in the polls that the entire Liberal Party hates while she's primarying a president.
Which
so
is
my argument, go ahead.
Which is basically just saying I'm going to eventually vote for Joe Biden.
Yeah, pretty much. That's an extra step. Vote for Joe Biden with an extra step.
And so why would Joe Biden ever have to meet you halfway? Marianne Williamson is never going to ask her followers to hold your vote until Joe Biden meets us halfway on something. It's never going to happen. And so, that was my only real disappointment with Tulsi was that she ended up endorsing the biggest warmonger in the history of my fucking life. It was really, that hurt, right? But she always said she was going to do it, but I thought she was going to take it to the convention and really stick it to him.
And that's why we called out Marianne Williamson and her lying supporters, because they are pretending that she had a plan to dim exit, run third party. But I explained to people the reason why Tulsi endorsed Joe Biden is because they have a contract. In order to run in a Democratic nomination, you have to endorse the winner. That's in the DNC contract. And I don't know what's the penalties for breaking that contract, but apparently it's strong enough to keep Tulsi in line. That's for damn sure. So if Tulsi's going to follow that contract, to me, there's zero chance that RFK or Marianne Williamson is going to do what Tulsi did not do. But any last thoughts, and we can move on. Any last thoughts, Jimmy?
Well, isn't it funny how they said Tulsi was a Russian asset? That came from Hillary Clinton, former First Lady, Secretary of State, said publicly she was a Russian asset. And then as soon as she endorsed Joe Biden was like, oh, thank you, you're a great patriot.
So I want to shift to this topic. I want to make sure we get to a few of these. You was breaking down how the Biden administration weakened the United States standing on the global stage to the point where they thought Trump was going to do. And I've been watching this with a giant smile on my face. This has been hilarious to me, people watching RBN, because everything they said Trump would do, all his incompetence of weakening the United States standing on the global stage, how he going to alienate allies. You had the Biden administration, United States, alienating Brazil, by far the largest country in South America. They alienated India as well, who tell them to screw off. You had Saudi Arabia, as Jimmy Dore was playing earlier before. And in order to hide the fact that the West is taking this massive L, that the financial war against Russia was a giant miscalculation, that they're losing the war in Ukraine. These things are becoming undeniable. You're starting to see the rise of fascism. This is going to be the theme of this segment, because we're going to cover this internationally and we're going to cover this domestically, because I cover foreign policy, because the fascism we see internationally always comes back home. We're seeing that with Cop City. We're going to get to that here very soon. So we're going to see the fascism that they're engaging on an international level, and has been for years. I wonder how many liberals don't understand that Julian Assange is not American. Julian Assange is Australian. Like, the United States is so unhinged. We took journalists from other countries and locked them up for exposing U.S. war crimes. And they was like, this is the warm-up. That was just the warm-up. And there's a few stories just back-to-back recently showing the emerging fascism that Jimmy was warning you about, what RBN was warning you about, what Max Blumenthal, you see here, was warning about for some time. You had Gonzalo Lira. And I know him as someone who spoke up against the Ukrainian war. We don't agree on everything, but for goddamn sure we agree on the Ukraine war. That's something that he nailed consistently. And I actually saw this, I'm a little bit late on this story. Like, I saw this like maybe a day or two ago, and I was like, what the fuck? So I want Jimmy and CJ, I want you guys to respond to this, because we have two instances of this. You have the U.S. citizen Gonzalo Lira faces long prison term for questioning the Ukrainian government narrative of its war for speech crime. He has been disappeared, possibly tortured, and the State Department refuses to acknowledge him. But this is the country that we are saying is fighting for democracy. The country that banned opposition parties, that banned the Russian language and torturing people that speaking out against them. Last one, I'll get you guys' thoughts on this, because this shows you have the Ukraine government cracking down, and you also have the British police who detained Kit Clarenberg of the Gray Zone and interrogated him essentially over his political beliefs, and they reported on Ukraine. So this is just one example of the rise of the international fascism. We get to the domestic version here very soon. Jimmy, CJ, we start with Jimmy. Anything you guys want to add to this? Any concerns on?
Just as predicted, when Barack Obama repealed habeas corpus in the NDAA section 1021, where he repealed the right to a speedy free trial, all they have to do is deem you a terrorist, and they can give you what they call indefinite detention, which is what they can lock you up without a real charge, and they can lock you up without a trial, which is what tyrant kings used to do, which
Yes.
is why in 1100 they came up with fucking the habeas corpus. It's in the Magna Carta, and they repealed that now, which means that we're operating on a liberty view from somewhere around the 1100s. So, and that's why all they have to do is say that Gonzalo Lara is a terrorist, and they can, and that's what they did to Kit Clarenberg, right? So they, and if you, that thing you just showed was their kind of like their warrant to interrogate him under the terrorism law, and that he was doing, you know, computer terrorism, and this kind of what he's doing is exposing the, you know, the state, and the they can't have that, right? Just like when the Guardian, we covered it yesterday on my show, when the Guardian used to be a good newspaper, they actually printed WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. They actually printed, they were the ones who did that Snowden leaks. And then immediately the intelligence community infiltrated the Guardian, threatened them, made them destroy their computers on video, and a way to humiliate them, right? Because they knew that wasn't destroying all the WikiLeaks and all that Snowden files. They knew that, but they made them do that anyways. The editors and the deputy editors of the newspaper, the intelligence community, the cops withholding the power of prosecution and jailing them and kicking them out of the country, made them destroy their own computers as a symbol to other journalists, like, you better fucking watch it. And they did. And then immediately one of the editors of the Guardian went to sit on the censorship board of the government. That was that. And so then they started feeding them fake exclusive stories from the MI6, which is their version of the CIA. And then they started feeding. And so then they hired Luke Harding, and now they're just mouthpieces for the intelligence community. And so I don't know what got me started on that, but that's the people don't understand. But of course, the Young Turks reported that what the Guardian says about Julian Assange, that they did that big lie that Donald Trump's campaign manager met with Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy, the most photographed building in the world, but somehow I didn't have a picture of it, right? But the Young Turks still reported that is still up to date, that video on their site, and they just happened to take $20 million from biggest DNC donor. Anyway, so back to you.
Yeah, I remember Democracy Now! Also smeared Julian Assange, and they actually haven't apologized for that as well. They done good work defending Julian Assange, but they also covered the Russian asset bullshit uncritically, and that's something that they have to be held accountable for. They got to answer for that. And Jimmy, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I want to say, so what? So you really think Amy Goodman doesn't know what's going on in Ukraine?
Yeah.
But somehow fucking we do. Somehow a pothead jagoff nightclub comedian who somehow I know exactly what's going on, but she's just still not, I don't know what's going on. And she didn't really Russiagate and Crowd and all that. And January 6th, she doesn't know the truth about fucking anything, really. What is going on with her? She won't have on Aaron Mate to debunk all the Syria bullshit she puts on her show. She stopped having Glenn Greenwald on to debunk Russiagate and every other fucking stupid thing. Isn't that amazing? And then she'll never get fired, but you know who did get fired? Tucker Carlson. Why? Because he's shitting on immigrants? No, they love it when he shits on immigrants, you fucking dummies. He got fired because he told the truth about Syria. That's why. They love it when he shits on immigrants, because it divides the country and it gets us distracted from the fucking real overtake of our democracy. He got fired because he started to tell the truth about fucking empire and imperialism. And then he brought RFK Jr. on to tell the truth about how Big Pharma corrupts his own news station. And fucking that's why all the COVID narrative was the COVID narrative on the TV news, and that he was gone. That's why he got fired. You don't get fired from corporate America for lying. You don't get in trouble in politics for lying. You get in trouble in politics for telling the truth, and you get in trouble in corporate news for telling the truth. And for whatever fucking reason, Tucker Carlson decided to do really good work, and he's been doing really good work on foreign policy since the Syrian war.
Amy Goodman is very frustrating because she would have
she's good and bad.
She will have good guests on every once in a while. She will have Chris Hedges on. And she'll have people on that will explain why the Ukraine war is actually a U.S. proxy war against Russia. Like, so the thing is, she will have people on that will do a great job explaining shit. And then the next episode, she will come on without retaining any of the information So I'm like, that's the thing that's frustrating. It's not that she don't know it. Like she played dumb. Like I'm like, you just talked to Chris Edges about Ukraine. You just had Sean Skinner about Ukraine. How are you? And your criticism, Jimmy, is legit. There's guests they don't have on that they should. But I'm like, you guys dived into enough topics where you shouldn't be falling for Russiagate and January 6th anymore. But you so go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't. Aaron Mate worked for Amy Goodman for 10 years. He was a producer there, so they know who he is, and they know he won an award for his meticulous debunking of that FBI, CIA, Democratic Party psyop called Russiagate. Why didn't they have him on to debunk it? Why they know he's doing award. He won an award for his coverage of the Syrian debunking of that bullshit Syrian gas attack and the OCPW cover up. They know he debunked that. Why didn't she have him on for that? What the fuck? And so it's really suspect. And she's, that's why her show's been around forever. Everybody loves it, but somehow my show gets more views than hers. Isn't that weird?
So just for the sake of time, CJ, anything you want to add? I want to move on.
No. Go ahead for the sake of time. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I have the Cop City story we're gonna get to. Then I'll save the fun story for last, so we're gonna get to Max Blumenthal calling out Rachel Maddow. But first, I'm gonna quickly cover the fascism going domestically, and this is why I cover foreign policy, which I believe is extremely important, especially if you're part of disenfranchised community, poor, because we are the victims of empire. What they do overseas is a glorified beta test about what's going to happen domestically. And I had Nkosi Mandela on. I had the Palestinian Community Network on. There have been longstanding tradition of solidarity between African Americans, Afro-Brazilians, South Africans, and Palestinians because the oppression that we face is very similar. In fact, you had NYPD, you had LAPD train with Israeli soldiers, and they exchange tactics all the time. You want to know what tactic that they learned from Israel? Or maybe they learn from each other. It's very hard to pinpoint who started first because it's the question who started Nazism. The Nazis are Americans who genocided the Indians because Nazis learned from Americans who genocided it. So that's the question. But let's keep it simple. Let's say Israel and the United States share these tactics where you're a Palestinian and you are resisting the United States sponsored, UK sponsored, state sponsored genocide and apartheid of your people that you had the right to resist, they label those people as terrorists. God forbid you pick up a pebble and throw it. If you do, you're a terrorist, and Israel is allowed to do whatever they want to you.
And that was all in the works, and that's what I was talking about when Barack Obama repealed habeas corpus and said they could just all they have to do is say you're a terrorist. So that's why it's Standing Rock. Even Amy Goodman was charged with terrorism just for covering it, right? And stuff like that. So that's the new thing. They just say you're an environmental terrorist, right? And so now those people supporting the truckers in Canada, they're economic terrorists. That's what they're saying about these people in Cop City. And so nobody stood up when they did it to the truckers, and so of course they're doing it here, and they learned it from the Israelis.
Absolutely, and that's the connection that we bring. Nkosi Mandela, the grandson of Nelson Mandela, acknowledged the genocide and apartheid as Black Americans are going through in the United States on our show. The same way we acknowledge the Palestinians. It's a similar trend once you follow international news, the Western world order, the violence that they commit. That's why the liberal and social democrat strategy of pacifism, of fighting against fascism, is not going to work. It's not going to work. I'm sorry, because I'm going to show you guys what they engaged on us. There's just one example. I need to speed this up because we got a lot to cover. Atlanta police arrest organizers of bail fund for Cop City protesters. Now, I could make an argument, I'm sure a lawyer can probably do it better than me, that this is a direct violation of the First Amendment. Like, isn't the ability, going by their logic, the ability to raise bail funds a form of speech? You speaking out against the police and their actions? That's the logic they use to when they say that speech is money is as a person regarding the Supreme Court. Go ahead, Jimmy, if you want to chime in.
Well, of course it is, but I remember watching an episode of Boston Legal where William Shatner was talking to James Spader, and he was saying, well, it'll go to the Supreme Court, and the Constitution says this, and And he said, William Shatner said, Constitution says whatever the fuck we want it to say. He goes, what do you mean, man?
Yes.
He goes, no, it's the Constitution. He goes, no, we give money to the people. They run for the office. They pick the people we want them. They put them on the court, and it says whatever we want them to fucking say. That's how this works. And it was just such a truth. And so right now, of course, it's the First Amendment, but the Attorney General in Georgia and the governor in Georgia say these people are terrorists, and they're not gonna stop until they get all these people arrested who are raising money and a bail fund. That's what the governor and the Attorney General. So they say they determined that the First Amendment is what they fucking say it is in Georgia.
Exactly. Like George Carlin said, you got temporary allowances. They got that shit they write down in the book, but they tell you that shit is PR. It's whatever they in the mood to give you. The second the Black Panther started arming up, Reagan was like, that Second Amendment, fuck that shit. Not with them, right? Go ahead, Jimmy.
Isn't it funny too how they make a big deal about when a Republican gets to choose a Supreme Court member, as if a Democrat ever picked a champion of the working class in their my lifetime? That's why there's so many decisions, 8-1, fucking 9-1, all that shit. They all agree on most of this shit. They're all corporatists. They all are against the worker and the common man, and that's because of the Democrats and the Republicans. And the reason why we all know that Barack Obama tried to hold the Supreme Court nomination over people's heads so you'd vote for Hillary because she's so fucking repulsive. They knew nobody would otherwise, and it still didn't work, and they lost it. And as soon as they lost that Supreme Court seat, a bunch of Democratic senators said, yeah, we should have fought for more harder, and we didn't because we made a miscalculation. But there's a lot of people who make you think that the reason why the Supreme Court is the way it is because Jimmy Dore.
That's so ridiculous. And they will be upset with me because my very simple answer to the obvious Democratic strategy of using the Supreme Court to guilt people to voting for these war criminals was I don't trust you with a Supreme Court pick either. So what I mean by that is Joe Biden said he would veto Medicare for all.
That's right.
If Joe Biden would veto Medicare for all, what makes you think he wouldn't put a judge on there that would label it unconstitutional? Like, these are things that dumb leftists don't think about. Like, you had Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the darling liberal judge who used the doctrine of discovery to rule against Indian gas pipeline protesters. Do you guys want to know the precedent the doctrine of discovery was created under? When Americans were seizing the lands of indigenous people and committing genocide against them, and then the old Americans that were committing genocide against the indigenous people of our nation said that we have the right to do that under the doctrine of discovery. We're discovering new lands, so anyone who occupied that land, we have the right to do whatever we want to them. So Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that corporations under the doctrine of discovery have the right to drill on indigenous lands. That's the liberal judges that you guys want us to vote for. Fuck out of here.
And that's what people had woken up to. I thought at least half of the people who voted in the Democratic primary in 2016, I thought they had woken up to this fact. And now it's like they all have fucking amnesia. Nobody remembers anything that happened in 2016 and how the establishment rigged it against us and silenced our voices and kept going doing what they want. Everybody forgot because Trump. And now they all pretend they're fighting some existential threat instead of a game show host, which is what they're actually fighting.
Man, I'm not looking forward to another Trump term, which I think is going to happen. It really dumbed down. It really broke the brains of so many people. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm going to get through the story real quick, and then we get to the Max Blumenthal more fun story.
Can I just say, I felt that way too. I thought for the good of the country, I wish Trump would go away so they couldn't use him to distract us from what the mission we were on before as progressives. But now I just saw a clip, and I'm going to cover it on Monday, where MSNBC host is saying DeSantis is way worse than Trump. So they're going to create another monster. And it's all about white supremacy and all about, it's just the scariest buzzwords they can use. Rachel Maddow, just that speech, we're going to talk about it right now, right?
Yeah, that'll be our next story. Yeah.
That was all about trying to scare people about Nazis in America. But go ahead. Not the Nazis we're funding.
Yeah, I'll wrap this story up.
Not the ones we're funding.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. I appreciate your time, Jim. I'll wrap this story up real quick. On a few more receipts I'll read just on the wrap stop Cop City story. this from Defend the Atlanta Forest. The movement to stop Cop City is a popular movement, and the tactics it uses are also popular. When the government attacks us, it relies on more and more general and vague accusations to do so, thus pulling more and more people into a movement. This pattern cannot be stopped. And this also shows the Atlanta police and the fascists that support it are panicking over organized resistance. Look at this audio release. Atlanta Police Department discusses how the latest arrest of the Atlanta, let's see what the official name, the Atlanta Solidarity Fund organizers are part of a deliberate campaign targeting the Stop Cop City movement. So the police are actively going after people who they deem to be a threat against Cop City. This is the kind of stuff that they're doing in this country. This is not, and I repeat, this is not Soviet Russia. This is not the DPRK. This is not China. This is footage of the American police pulling up to organizers, fully armed, like they're going against a school shooter. And the last point I want to make on this story before we move on to the next one, I want you guys to understand why they are doing this and why, no matter how bad it looks, that's why it looks bad, but no matter how bad it looks, they must do this. Because if they lose this fight against the activists fighting against Cop City, can you imagine the trickle effect that will have? It will embolden a national and possibly an international anti-police movement. So they have to squash this shit right now. You can't give any ends to the proletariat. If you want to build Cop City, you build Cop City. If you allow them to stop you, that would create an energy where people are like, oh shit, let's fight against the police some more. Let's fight against fascists some more. That's why they must crack down on this right now. So before we move on, let's get last thoughts and we move on to our last segment.
By the way, where is Black Lives Matter? Tell me Black Lives Matter wasn't a fucking half of it wasn't an FBI psyop. I'm
glad you brought that up because Ferguson protesters, who was original Black Lives Matter activists, they was killed. And this is widely reported. They was killed, and the real activist was replaced. There was banned. There was shunned by liberal activists who co-opted the movement. Black Agenda Report does a great report over this, where you had the more radical activists, organizers doing the right thing, and you had liberal Democrats infiltrate the organization, and then they condemned the more radical activists. They used woke language to condemn radical activists, get them out of the movement. Then the Democratic Party took them over. They took millions of dollars of bribes. They got mansions. All of a sudden, they endorsing Jim Crow Joe. The Black Lives Matter organization is trash. I want you guys to understand. I was at the George Floyd protest. The people involved are real. They really want to fight fascism. Right. They're the same people. I know you understand this as well. They're the same people fighting against Cop City. But that movement was hijacked by the Democratic Party, which is why RBN, we say, if you create a movement and it goes to the Democratic Party in any way, your movement will die. So that might be Black Lives Matter. Go ahead, Jimmy. If you
she said that. Well, I mean, she said it on my show in 2017 that the road for progressives inside the Democratic Party leads to a graveyard. And that is how many more times this has to be proven over and over and over again. For fuck's sake, man. I mean, we keep, and we didn't just go a little bit to the right. We went unbelievably to the right with Joe Biden. Unbelievably. I mean, we can't even get a goddamn minimum wage. If there was a Republican, we've had a better chance of getting that fucking passed on a negotiation than with it. And by the way, it's so funny to see Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden
pretending.
It's so funny to see them doing a negotiation. They both work for the exact same motherfuckers. Most motherfuckers know what's going to happen. They know what the parameters of the debate are going to be, and that's that. It's just, and
CJ, I'll pass to you for your last thoughts on this subject. But I promise God, I do not use the term fascism lightly.
Right.
I am not one of those people that do that. But what else do I just use to describe this? What else do you use, Jimmy, to describe this mindset? And it was the last thing I had on this segment. We have fascists.
Where the fuck is Chomsky? Where the fuck is Chomsky on the truckers when they did that shit to the truckers? And then where are the people who are supposed to be leaders on this shit? Where are the artists? Where are the fucking musicians? Where are the people like Chomsky? Where the fuck are they? They're nowhere, and it falls on the shoulders of assholes like us to fucking talk about this shit. And then they call it right wingers for doing it. It's fucking crazy. I'm sorry to
Absolutely.
interrupt you. But,
No, you're good.
And they'll still never no one will ever make Chomsky apologize for calling fucking Medicare for all candy and the people fighting for it in the middle of a fucking pandemic, children. They'll never make him apologize for saying that the unvaccinated who didn't want to fucking go along with a bullshit program that we now know was nothing but a big lie. And saying that they should be quarantined from society. And when asked how they should get food and water, he said that's up to them. That's their problem. He's never come out and fucking said, you know what, I was wrong about that. And guys like Jimmy Dore was right about that. He won't fucking do that because it turns out he has just a little character as the people he's been critiquing his whole life. And as soon as it fucking came time to rely on your values, you rely on your values of bodily autonomy and my body, my choice, and being skeptical of government. And when corporations come together and have fucking medical mandates that don't have anything to do with the Nuremberg Code because it's not informed consent because they lied about. Those are the fuckers that are supposed to have a sense of history and stand up against that shit. And they fucking didn't. So they're just as bad as anybody. When the fucking rubber meets the road, Chomsky fucking bent to the Nazis and he fucking went along with them. And he's not fucking trying to make up for it. And nobody's ever going to hold his feet to the fire to do that. Just like no one's going to hold AOC's feet to the fire or Bernie Sanders to the feet to the fire. And they'll never come on fucking media like this because they're all cowards who serve the fucking machine. Every 4 years, Chomsky shits his pants and tells you got to vote Democrat. That fucking guy is useless now.
The professional managerial class never faced consequences for their horrific political opinions. You can be a member of the professional managerial class and advocate literal fascism like Chomsky and many of the NATO left did, and they were still treated with dignity and respect among the PMC class. But God forbid us ordinary people have a bad tweet we sent out 3 years ago. You're done.
Yep.
Different standards, right? So I'm gonna read this last part. I'm gonna show you guys the fascism walking among us. We still have the Max Blumenthal story. That's a fun way to wrap this up. But these are the fascists that walk among us. This is some representative in Georgia. He said today's arrests are about the violence that occurred at the site of the future.
That's the Attorney General. That's Attorney General. Georgia.
Sorry. Yeah, AG, Chris Carr. This is the Attorney General, guys.
What?
Not just some average random fucking person. The Attorney General. Thank you, Jimmy. But he said, as we said before, we will not rest until we held accountable every person who has funded, organized, or participated in this violence and intimidation. So they just labeled all protest violence and intimidation, and now they label everybody criminal for it. How that? Once again, Jimmy, I said we don't use I try not to use fascism like just nilly-willy or whatever, right? But what other language can you use to describe this other than fascism? The forcible oppression of your opposition. That's exactly what this is. Literally cracking down on dissent and protest. These are literally fascist sentiments, right? But I'll wrap this segment up.
Why isn't the Democratic Party establishment chiming in on? Where is Stacey Abrams? Like, remember, this is Georgia. Where is Hakeem Jeffries? Where is the Black Congressional Caucus? Go ahead, Jimmy.
They're busy funding a new police force to the tune of $2 billion. That's what there's a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and I just don't understand these people. They claim to, and it was so disgusting about this. One of the most disgusting things I heard about Cop City is when they were trying to say this is to help the Black community. This is in honor of Martin Luther King or somebody like. It's like you have the audacity, and I don't know how else, because this encapsulates how much we're not a democracy. The people down there do not want this.
Yeah.
But they're saying you're going to take this and you're going to like it. They don't want this, and they're just proceeding along, just like with the debt ceiling and the whole PR firm, PR arm of the Democratic Party is selling this debt ceiling. It just, up is down, black is white. Everything is so haywire, and the NATO left is not helping. I'll let you. That's a good segue to the next story. The NATO left, and that's what I consider Rachel Maddow. Go ahead, Jimmy.
That video you showed of those cops dressed up in full military gear, that it looks exactly like what Mike Preisner said he used to do in Iraq, right? Remember, he used to say he used to go in there, drag people out of their houses and smash people's heads against the wall and make them bleed and fucking torture. That's what he was doing, right? And that's what they're doing that looked like a scene from Iraq. That didn't look like a scene from America. Those aren't cops. Cops are supposed to show up, right? Which are supposed to be civil servants. These guys look like they look like soldiers. So cops, the problem is they see the citizen as like an enemy that's supposed to be there, so they're supposed to police instead of a citizenry they're supposed to serve. And that's what soldiers are taught. Soldiers are occupying forces. Well, that's what cops are now, because none of the cops live in the goddamn neighborhoods that they police in the first fucking place, especially here in Los Angeles where I live. All the cops live out in in the mountains, no, literally, and then
like
they
far away.
And then they drive into the inner city and police them like they're fucking enemies instead of citizens that they're there to serve. And that's exactly what this is. And so exactly what Tulsi was the one who was actually saying that, what we do, our foreign policy is going to become our domestic policy. And then, of course, AOC said that at a Bernie's rally, and people pretended that it was her line. And so anyway, but this is living proof. It's exactly, and we're like the frog in the pot, and it's boiling, and no one's fucking noticing what's happening. And the only guy who's saying anything about it certainly isn't Bernie fucking Sanders. The only guy who's saying anything about it is RFK Jr., right? So I don't know if he's spoken out about stuff like this before, but he's certainly talking about how the corporation is crushing. First of all, how the controls our government, right? He's the only one talking about that anymore. Bernie Sanders used to at least a little bit talk about how the banks are controlled. So at least RFK Jr. is doing that. I would like to see what his opinion is on shit like this and how he reforms policing in America, because the militarized police like this is not policing. This is exactly what you said. And I don't use that term. Everybody wants to call anything they don't like fascism and grifting. It's just because they don't like it. But this is what, so when it actually happens, people don't notice it. They don't recognize it. Actual fascism, when Joe Biden and the Democrats crushed the railroad union strike. That's actual fascism. That's the government being controlled by tycoons and corporations to crush the workers, right? And so that's what fascism is. The government's supposed to be the buffer. They're supposed to be there to stand up for the workers and have, but so that's exactly what this is too. This isn't serving the public. This is controlling the public with a militarized police force. That's exactly what fascism is. And so, yeah, we're living in it, and people embrace it, and they get people to think that more, because that's why they hype the crime in Chicago. Now, I don't know about you if you've ever been to Chicago, but it's 10 times cleaner than fucking New York City. And it's like walking around a mall, most of it, right? So just like there's poor neighborhoods where the crime is concentrated, just like everywhere now. And of course, they flood all the fucking cities with guns, and they take away all the fucking jobs, and they close the schools, which is what Rahm Emanuel did. What the fuck you think is going to happen in those neighborhoods, you asshole? But most of the cities, they have to make people think that it's scarier than it is, so they can keep funding more fucking police. And now we have that new mayor in Chicago, and that guy's not going to do a goddamn.
He's a joke.
He's not. He has no plan. He has no vision. He's not going to use any of his political capital to try to actually do something big that helps people. He's going to try and be a fucking middle manager, micromanaging problems and trying to please everybody. He has no vision. He has no idea, and so there won't be anything happening. There won't be any ideas on how to fix anything coming out of the fucking Democratic Party.
Yeah, and we must say this part about Chicago too. Chicago, it has the highest funding, the second highest funding per capita for police. Yet their crime rate is this high. I just did a segment on this a couple of weeks ago. They are the second behind New York, spends the most per capita on police. Chicago's second. So this is not a funding issue. And it's funny because TYT covered it too when they interviewed the mayor that you're talking about, Jimmy. They interviewed him, and they was asking him about crime, and Anna was like, "Hey, I don't know what's going on. We're funding over here, but crime rate is still up." And then no funding. She was trying to make the point, and she was making the point of defund the police without even knowing it in that segment. And I'll pass it back to you, Nick.
Yeah, Jimmy, last thoughts. We can move on to our last fun story just for a second time. But Jimmy, last thoughts.
Well, just to wrap it up is that people don't realize that what the driver of crime is, and that more cops don't mean less crime, and cops don't stop. I called the cops. I had a crazy, when I lived in Pasadena, I had a crazy guy with a gun sitting in front of my house, and I called the cops. They didn't come for fucking 55 minutes, man. I mean, so now you know why people own guns, right? So because the cops don't come. And I'm anti-gun, but I can't wag my finger at somebody who feels threatened. So anyway, I forget how I was wrapping it up, but that's it. It's wrapped up. And
we spent an hour having fun, spitting, exposing fascism internationally and domestically. Now we can have a more fun segment to wrap this up, because Max Blumenthal has been very impressive recently, been exposing these woke imperialists. There's no other way to say it. There's this video from Rachel Maddow. I want to get right into it. And I don't know how these elites sleep at night, knowing that they can't justify their basic positions. And this is Max. I don't know how they allowed him to get this close. I literally had no idea how they allowed this to happen, but he did. It did happen, and it's absolutely glorious. I don't want to spoil it anymore. I'll play the video, and I want to get Jimmy's and CJ's response.
Bent on overthrowing the U.S. government. And members of Congress who were sympathetic.
Rachel, this speech is boring and paranoid. Can you explain why you promoted the Steele? Why did you promote the Steele dossier, which has been proven to be a lie? Why did you promote the lie of Russian bounties? Can you ever be held accountable for the lies you told Americans for years and years and years? You lied to Americans for years.
Let's go.
Silence is violence, Rachel. There you go. You want my badge?
Thank you.
So
that's the call out point.
Can you explain why you promoted the Steele? Why did you
mean in this everything?
Yeah, people are putting out those memes that say that's what a corporate tool looks like when she encounters a real journalist.
Do you think, Jimmy or Nick, do you think she's never heard of this critique until this Max incident? Like this is like the first time. What do you mean? I was lying about Russiagate? What do you mean, Max? Like,
I think
do
she
you
knows
think it's the first time, or
I think she knows it, and if she Max came up, she looked at him. That's why she did this look. This is my theory. She did this look because she wanted to see his badge. Are you NBC? Are you a legit journalist? And then when Max started calling her out, she's like, "Oh shit, there's the critique I can't defend against. Security, a real journalist is actually in here." So to answer your question, she 100% knows she's full of shit. I don't know how the people sleep at night. I guess $40,000 a day would do that for you. $100,000
a day. Her
Jesus
contract
Christ.
35. Her contract is, I'm pretty sure it's $35 million. Her latest contract, which works out to $500,000 a week, which works out to $100,000 a workday. That's what she makes.
That's so, and that's why you don't care. You don't have any shame after that. And that's why, like, look at. I'll play the video again. Look at her reaction once she realizes this is not an NBC reporter. She immediately looks up like, security, get this peasant. We know Max Blumenthal's not a peasant, but if you make $100,000 a day, all these motherfuckers are peasants, right? So she's like, security, get this peasant away from me. So I'm gonna play that part again. Look at her reaction. Her reaction once she realizes who that is says everything to me.
Bent on overthrowing the U.S. government. And members of Congress who were sympathetic.
Rachel, this speech is boring and paranoid. Can you explain why you promoted the Steele? Why did you promote the Steele dossier, which has been proven to be?
Look, you see that look? Security.
But look at her face. Look at her face, and then we'll get Jimmy's. But look at her face. She is looking to say, how did you let this clown in here? That's the look she has. How did you let this real journalist in here? Have you not, did you not get the list, the guest list at the front? Keep out Max Blumenthal, keep out Jimmy Dore, keep out RBN, keep out Aaron Mate. It is truly disgusting to me, though, that she has not been held accountable. Has she even addressed it, Jimmy? Have you heard her address it?
No one's going to make any of those people address that Russiagate was complete bullshit. No one's going to, even though the majority of Americans now understand that it was complete bullshit, and they're not even surprised that it was made up by the Hillary Clinton campaign and FBI. No one's going to hold her accountable for pushing that Steele dossier, or the Clinton campaign for lying about funding it for a fucking year, which is what they did. And then they lied. That nobody's going to hold the FBI accountable for lying 17 times to the FISA court to get fucking warrant to tap the phone of the Trump campaign. I mean, again, I'm no fan of the goddamn Trump campaign or Donald Trump, but people don't realize is that no matter if an outsider ever managed, if Bernie Sanders had the stones to grab power, everything that they did to Trump, they would be doing to Bernie Sanders. That's exactly what would be happening. And people don't realize that they already started Russiagating Bernie Sanders when he was running. They said Russia was on his side, and Bernie Sanders is such a cuck and such. It's not hyperbole that guy guy is the fucking a lapdog to power and is afraid of his own shadow, that he went along with it instead of debunking it and all that. He went along with it and said Putin should stop interfering in our like a fucking moron. And so, and then whatever. So what they're doing to Trump, they're having trumped up charges of from the DA Bragg in New York. They passed a law so that woman could sue him in civil court. Just that one. It's the crazy. And they went into his the FBI agents, turns out, didn't want to go into his house and his closet. They knew it was fucked up and they shouldn't do it, but they were made to do that anyway. That came from the top. That came from fucking Biden's Justice Department. So this all what they're doing to Trump is and Trump is again, and it's just because he wouldn't go along with their foreign policy and he would tell the truth about it when he would. That they can't fucking have that because Trump thought that made him seem tough to admit that we're taking their fucking oil, man, fucking taking these Arabs' oil. That's what he thought he was saying to his people. And what he was actually saying was the truth, and that you can't do that. So I'm sorry, I get sidetracked, but that's what
no worries. I appreciate you staying a little on extra. We almost done with this segment here. This is Rachel Maddow. I want to show you guys her response after that. I cut the video because the last like 20 seconds of the video, you see Max standing there with the reporter trying to recast what happens there. But this is Rachel after he leaves the scene. So like if you're an ordinary person, which none of those people are, they all DNC donors, capitalists, people part of the machine. But the average person after seeing Maddow get caught out by that, like the whole vibe would be ruined, right? Like imagine Jimmy, you doing a show and someone called you out for being a fraud and you trying to continue. It'd be kind of awkward doing the show after doing that. But Maddow, because she make $100,000 a day, I should say, that's news to me. Look how shamelessly she just walks out being exposed as a fraud.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
Can you pause it? Can you pause it?
Yeah.
That is such a classist point that she's trying to make here. And what she's saying, and this is why they cheer, what she's saying is that's not state media. That's not state media. That's essentially what she's saying here.
Yes,
state media is only welcome here, and he's not one of those. Go ahead, Jimmy.
That's not establishment sanctioned media. Ha 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 ha. That's just anybody can say anything. It's not filtered through a corporation or a bank or an advertising company. It's just they can just say whatever that play.
Yeah, Seymour Horst has a Substack too, and he reported something on the Nord Stream pipeline. So what are you talking about, Rachel? She is one of the disgusting people on media. To me, she had me, Jimmy. I was one of the people in the beginning who believed Russiagate before the Mueller report came out. Then I started. This was one of my turning points from the Democratic Party was Russiagate. I woke up in the middle of it and I was like, this shit. But I was the one that watched Rachel every day when she had the whole wall. Remember the whole wall she had, a listing of things and that. I literally I was like, wow, Trump is a spy in the damn White House. What the hell's going on around here? Yes, I believed it. I believed it until I didn't, until I start to just go deductive reasoning. Because what you have to do, Jimmy and Nick, to believe this stuff, you have to suspend your own logic that you've lived through for decades. You have to go, what I've lived through a human nature before, let me suspend that and just go off of what this propaganda is. And I'll pass it back to you guys.
Yeah, and I actually was joking around when in my monologue I had Rachel calling Max Blumenthal a peasant in my little skit, but that's literally what she does. Like this is her way. That's literally that's just some fucking peasant who works at Substack.
Coming to a Substack near you.
That's literally her way of saying that.
Wow. When you think about that is so class. That's such a class thing.
And think about this. She's at a thing called TrueCon. And who is it sponsored by? It's sponsored by the biggest weapons manufacturers in the whole fucking world. She's being paid by she's being paid by that's a Raytheon and all those fucking companies are sponsoring this. And that it's called TrueCon. It's from the Truman Institute or something. And that's just Max talks about it in his tweet thread. That's just there to take progressive politicians and progressives and turn them into pro-war maniacs. And there's no bigger pro-war maniac. I mean, there's no more disgusting person. I mean, concluding fucking Sean Hannity, whoever you want to put up there. There's no more disgusting person than Rachel Maddow. There's nobody who encourages bloodthirstiness and warmongering with a smile, because you never think a homosexual. I mean, she likes, she likes having sex with other women. Those people are supposed to be holy and godlike, right? And turns out they can be just as disgusting as fucking anybody. Anybody they call a white supremacist. What do you think you're doing by supporting imperialism? What do you think that is? If that isn't defined as white supremacy, I don't know what the fuck you define it as. But then she's a glad cheerleader of it, and they distract you. They want to distract you with the bullshit that actually doesn't threaten power. While, by the way, Joe Biden is finishing Trump's wall in Arizona. So here we go.
To that point, Jimmy, and this is why RBN, this is why we take it upon ourselves to call the Democrat Party out so much. We have JB, who is a member of the LGBTQ community as well, who calls out people like Maxwell Frost and these people who claim to represent him as frauds. The same way that we should call out these black leaders. They have this new strategy. We're gonna put gay people like Rachel Maddow in front. We're gonna put Corinne Jean-Pierre, who she's like a black queer. You put her out there. Go ahead.
She's a woman. She's black. She's an immigrant, and she's lesbian. She's how many fucking boxes can you check at once? And she's horrible at her job.
And apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure she's Haitian as well. And she had a press conference where she was justifying the United States plan to invade Haiti. You had this person from Haiti, immigrant, queer, black person, that is justifying U.S. invading her home country. That is liberalism in a nutshell, and why I hate it to my core. Now we were talking about Cop City earlier, and we talking about police fascism. You want to know who enabling fascism?
That's right.
And not Republicans. Well, they are, but they're not leading it. Look, this is I'm shifting in here just quickly. Black mayors are leading the nation's biggest cities for the first time. So black mayors are leading the biggest cities for the first time, and we got a homeless epidemic. We got cop cities being built. Black income inequality is worse than ever. You guys see this is the consequences of liberal identity politics, which we call out as bullshit.
Well, this is exactly what Fred Hampton warned against. He said we have to educate our black leaders because we don't want them just to become the same oppressors. We don't want our black oppressors, black people like the white people. We don't want them to replace the oppressors with black oppressors, and that's exactly what has happened. Barack Obama was the biggest oppressor of black people in my lifetime.
I agree. Once again, I'm a young black man. I 100% agree. I told my kin that. My kin acknowledged that now. It was easy for me because my kin apolitical. I feel bad for some other friends who have boomer black parents who still can't get over Obama. That guy, I still have Barack Obama derangement syndrome. And I probably want what he did to our community, what he did to our generation. I could write a book on. I did write a Substack. My first Substack I wrote about Obama, and I could include so much. I cut so much in that first article. Anyway, I cut myself out here. Anyway, this is the last one. This is from a few days ago, but for the sake of the segment, I play this because this is, as you explained, Jimmy. This is a neocon arms dealer event, and they will also pretend to be. They are woke imperialists. So I'll play the video just for a second time to play it. I think it speaks for itself. Max Blumenthal exposed woke imperialists.
Hello, Max Blumenthal, Gray Zone. My pronouns are Trump Russia. Lockheed Martin is one of the most diverse employers in the country, and I was wondering if you knew by any chance how many products or weapons produced by Lockheed Martin, diversity and equity and inclusion bombs have been dropped on the children of Palestine, Yemen, or Syria. And also, do you happen to know off the top?
Bro, that silence says everything. I'll let it continue. That silence says
if any non-binary U.S. Navy divers were used in blowing up the Nord Stream pipelines.
What do you even say to that? What do you even say to that? What do you even say being exposed that badly? To me, the silence there is the loudest laugh track you can possibly have.
Yeah. Because if somebody comes in the room, if he came out and said, blah, 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 the sky is yellow, everybody be like, what? You crazy. They will have a response. The fact that you are looking so blank is telling us what he's saying. It's true. What he's saying has hit a spot for you to be this quiet. And the silence says so much. Back to you.
Absolutely. Last few seconds here. I'll play the last 15 seconds again, and then we wrap up.
Best Navy divers were used in blowing up the Nord Stream pipelines.
How many? He asked how many non-binary Navy divers.
Can you rewind it just by 15 seconds, Nick? I want to see that again.
Let's watch. I watch the full. Let's watch it.
Okay, I gotta see that again.
In less than a minute. So let's watch it in full one last time. This is glorious. Great stuff by Max.
Hello. Max Blumenthal, the Gray Zone. My pronouns are Trump Russia. Lockheed Martin has been identified as one of the most diverse employers in the country. And I was wondering if you knew by any chance how many products or weapons produced by Lockheed Martin, diversity and equity and inclusion bombs have been dropped on the children of Palestine, Yemen, or Syria. And also, do you happen to know off the top if any non-binary U.S. Navy divers were used in blowing up the Nord Stream pipelines?
I can't even hear what they said there, but that was I'm literally crying, dude. That was a glorious bit. That's a glorious bit.
Whoever was on whatever shield that was on the panel tried to make a joke out of it and said, "Well, I don't know, but if someone here to please tell me, and then we'll both know." Ha ha ha! He laughed. No one else did. Right?
They were still in shambles. Like,
yeah.
CJ, everyone there was still in shambles. They were still processing what the hell was going on. The security person that went up to Max, I think, was the first person that understood that was going on.
It's like showing up to a place with a bunch of like people who've committed a crime, and they're just trying to see, what do you know? Let me see what do you know about what I did. You know what I'm saying? That's what it feels like to me. But go ahead.
Anyway, great stuff by Max. Jimmy, I'm gonna give you the last word. Any last things you wanna? Any last thoughts before we send you off here? I appreciate your time today.
The reason why he was able to, those people were at least taking questions, right? That's why he was allowed. Isn't that funny? So this diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And so that's how you can be a bomb maker and somehow be seen as a Boy Scout virtue person who loves people and kids. And so, I think we need to call that out, because that's being used as a bullshit way. And of course, corporations don't give a fuck about gay people or lesbians or black people or brown people. You know, just like Nike, they don't give a fuck. They want you to buy the shit that Colin Kaepernick's wearing that's being made by fucking prisoners. They don't give a shit about black people. I'll tell you that. But anyway, so it's great to see Max doing that. Fantastic at the Gray Zone. And Max will be actually doing, he does stand-up comedy. And if you've ever seen it, it's fun. It's really hard.
I gotta see it one day. If it's anything like that,
I can tell in that video. You can tell the setup of the joke is pretty good.
It is fucking hardcore, and he knows how to deliver. So he'll be opening for me in July 14th and 15th in Baltimore at Magoo's Comedy Club. So it's my favorite comedy clubs, and we'll be there for 3 shows, July 14th and 15th in Baltimore. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets. Thanks for letting me give me a little promo.
Yeah, Jimmy, when is your next show out here in the West, so I can come down, bring my wife and come down and see?
I mean, in Los Angeles?
I'm in LA. I'm Los Angeles. So I'm.
Okay.
When the next time you're gonna be out here doing something?
I'm sure. I think in June we always do these shows at the 60-seat theater right down the street from my house. It's called the Two Roads Theater, and we just do stand-up shows. But we're going to start, hopefully, I'm in talks to start doing shows at the Improv over there. I want to start doing my live video show again. So I'll keep you abreast.
Yeah,
I'll let you know. I'll let you know my next live show here for sure, and I'll put you on my guest list.
Yeah, I'll bring the wife. She loves watching you. She's a big person against COVID. She's against, she's like a great reset person. Let me a little bit. So she's been telling me I gotta come see Jimmy.
We have my new special is called COVID Lies Are Funny.
Oh, she will love it.
So there's a couple of clips up on it. There's a teaser clips up on my website. I mean on YouTube. But it's an hour special, and you could get it at jimmydore.com. It's only $10, and you get to actually go watch all my specials. So there's 3 specials for $10. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Thanks. Jimmy.
Yeah, always fun to have you on, Jimmy, and appreciate you hanging in there with us and appearing during our Rumble launch week. I think it's been.
Oh, I love Rumble. Thank God for Rumble.
Yeah, I don't know if you know what's happened, but we was banned on YouTube for a week because CJ played a clip from the COVID International Summit where the doctor,
Dr. David Martin, you know that what he says, We can't really. I don't want to say because we're on YouTube, but it's the COVID Summit Part 3 with David Martin, and he talks about when the first patent of some of these things that Pfizer got in the 1990s, and he was like, "This is not warp speed. It's like this is from the 1990s. They've been planning it." So, and we got a strike literally for that. Like I didn't say anything. I just played it. A government entity is having this organization, and we got a strike. Just crazy.
Yeah, that's why we all rumble now. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, everybody, they're still coming at it. They gave Dr. John Campbell a strike for telling the truth about. He had on a member of Parliament from the UK who had something to say about the facts, and that's it. They took him down, and even him. I'm like, holy shit, they don't care. They don't give a fuck.
They don't give a fuck.
Isn't it funny? Everything Joe Rogan said turned out to be true. Isn't that funny?
I learned just recently they took AMLO's YouTube page down.
No.
I learned that I heard that AMLO had a big YouTube account apparently in Mexico.
You know what he did? He nationalized lithium. The lithium, he nationalized lithium. You can't. That's what we. As soon as you do shit like that, that's what we did to Iran in 1953 when Mossadegh nationalized oil. Like you can't. That's not your oil, asshole. Fucking through them. The same thing with why we overthrew Venezuela a couple times in the last decade is because when I found out that Venezuela had more oil than Saudi Arabia, I knew we had to bring democracy to their people.
So AMLO actually predicted this because AMLO called out the Democrats kicking off Trump from Twitter. Just like Lula called it out, AMLO called it out. AMLO called that out. He said, you cannot have the power to remove the head of states from spreading their information. Now, AMLO removed from YouTube. So he called it. He was trying to stop it from happening. But this is the land that the Bernie Sanders and the liberals want. But anyway, Jimmy, last thoughts. I appreciate you hanging in there with the last thoughts.
Yeah, I never thought where I would see the day where being anti-war, anti-censorship, and pro-free speech would be considered right-wing, but here we are, right?
So we're at.
So, or even being anti-big pharma would be considered right-wing. There's people stop dropping their. Everyone knows big pharma are just murderous, maniac, fucking criminals, and then they've totally bought the government. But somehow, when those two come together, they make beautiful babies. I don't understand. And you're not allowed to be skeptical of them. Well, it turns out we were all right, but still, the people like me who were writing. The only thing I did at my channel, I apologize for going on long. But the only thing I did at my channel, which got me labeled as anti-vax, was I figured out early on, because I had Dr. Robert Malone on my show, and he explained it to me, that no matter how many people get vaccinated, it's never going to stop the coronavirus, and that everybody's going to get the virus anyway, no matter if you're vaccinated or not, and you can spread it if you're vaccinated or not. And then they found out that they didn't. So that was all I was trying to say, was that you can't mandate this because people thought if everybody got vaccinated, it would stop the pandemic. That was never true. We now know it's not true because everybody got fucking vaccinated and then everybody got COVID. And so I knew that ahead of time because of Dr. Robert Malone. And then I was trying to point out by the countries that had the greatest uptake of the vax sometimes had the greatest outbreaks. They were having the greatest outbreaks. And so I was trying to show people, but they didn't want to hear it. You were like a bad person. It was like a cult. That's how cults act. It's like you're not supposed to throw your brother off the track because if you tell the truth about this, then he's not going to get the vax. Even though it didn't matter, it's not going to stop the thing. They were so brainwashed. It's like that mass psychosis formation. I had that guy from Belgium on my show explain it to people, to my audience, about how this happened. People who are usually skeptical and cynics, but it's only like people like us who stayed skeptical. At first, I wasn't. Don't get me wrong. The first year, until I got vaccine injured, I went along with everything. And then as soon as I looked into it, I was like, they're lying about everything. They're lying about early treatments. They're lying about the efficacy. They're lying about, they wanted to hide the data for 75 years. Just like with Russiagate, they wanted to hide Seth Rich's computer for 65 years. So it's the same. So it was the same. And it's just weird. It's like, okay, well, can't you still be pro-mandate? Like my other friends on YouTube and stuff like that. Like, can't you be pro-mandate and still report the truth about the fucking lies that Fauci's doing? Can't you still report the truth that they got the European Parliament that Pfizer admitted they never even tested to see if it stopped transmission? And they were giving it mandated on the fact that it did stop transmission. Like you can't report that they won't report fucking any of it. Isn't that weird? weird? They still pretend, and you still watch The Hill, and they're still like 8-10 months behind time on fucking what their understanding of what's happening with they still want to somehow everything Fauci did still was good. It was still okay. Same thing they do on Breaking Points. It was still even though everything they said turned out to be a fucking lie. Turns out it was still good and everybody's okay. And I'm glad it happened. And you're a bad person if you questioned it at the time. Isn't that crazy?
Anyway. Like you said, Jimmy, I think a lot of people have no idea how badly and how blatantly we was lied to. The highest.
Your mind can't comprehend.
I can't even I have a hard time. I'm like, I see your segment. I cannot believe they pulled this shit off, and people go along with it. And
the average age of death from the coronavirus was 82 years old. The average life expectancy is 70 fucking.
So if you get COVID, you're living longer than an average person.
And there's still people, they're still healthy. So, and they just released a study from Israel. There was there's not one healthy person under 50 years old who died from COVID. Not one. So there was always the same thing. You know, in a couple years before COVID, the guy who used to do my tech was overweight. He was obese. He got the flu. He went in the hospital. He got pneumonia. He died. That's what happens to people who have bad immune systems and are obese and overweight. 77% of the people who were hospitalized from COVID were overweight or obese. But what they did, they filled in playgrounds with sand. They started arresting people surfing. There was the fucking opposite of what they did. It was all about fear. It was all about Fauci using fear. Dr. Drew explained this to me, that's Fauci's ideology, is that he should use fear to control people during a pandemic like he did with AIDS. And he was the one who told people that you could catch it from a toilet seat and shit like that. Was Fauci. He was always trying to scare us. And that's why he lied about masks being efficacious during a pandemic when everyone knew there was never any evidence that showed that. And there still isn't. The evidence shows that masking doesn't work at the population level. He knew that before COVID. He still knew that, but he told people to wear that to scare the shit out of them and control them. And so it's just amazing to me that it's like us, people like us, that's just kept our wits about us and values. That's why you have fucking values. As Jon Stewart, who doesn't live by his values, Jon Stewart explained that if you don't go by your values when it's hard and tough to do that, then they aren't values. They're just fucking hobbies. And so when people like Chomsky said that you should be separated from society, and he turned on his own bodily autonomy and got rid of his skepticism of big pharma and government coming together to do evil. And by the way, now we know that all this came from the WHO. So when you're on YouTube, you can't say anything that isn't approved by the WHO. Well, guess who funds the WHO? Who's the biggest donor? They say it's Germany. It's not. It's Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Bill Gates.
The second biggest funder, they say it's Germany. Then it's Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Then it's China, the United States. And then it's something called Gavi. What is Gavi? Gavi's a pro-vaccine organization that was set up and funded by Bill Gates. So if you put those two together, Bill Gates. And then I find a videotape just yesterday of the former head of the WHO saying that their donors, she has to go around and ask everybody for money to fund them. And so then the people who donate, they have all the power and they have to talk, they have to abide by their ideas. She said that. That was the former head of the WHO. So now if you know who's actually funding the WHO, it's Bill fucking Gates. So now unelected people have just done a psyop on us for 2 straight years, got us to lock down, got us to hate our neighbors, got us to take experimental medical treatments without informed consent against the Nuremberg fucking code. They won't get to, and then their billionaire-owned media won't report anything of the side effects or anything, or that the fact that they lied about the research, that they covered up the research, that the 2 heads of the vaccine department resigned over the boosters at the FDA. They got that's never reported. You're just an asshole if you still are skeptical about it. It's amazing to me how they got people to stop being skeptical around that. And that's the biggest lesson. And I'm never going to forget. But you know what's the weirdest thing is, so all the people who got it wrong in COVID about lockdowns and masks and mandates and all that stuff, they still won't admit it. And they still try to treat me like I'm some kind of a maniac because I figured it out. If I had been wrong about all that stuff and I was apologized, they could forgive me, but they'll never forgive me for being right about COVID. And I'm just going to have to fucking live with it. Just like they'll never forgive me about being right for not voting for Hillary Clinton. They'll never forgive me for being right about fucking Russiagate and debunking that bullshit, or being right about Syria, or being right about Venezuela, or lockdowns or masks, or Tulsi, or fucking Bernie Sanders, or anything else. They'll never forgive you for being right about it. But that's the beauty of YouTube. They can't stop me unless, they really want to.
And Jimmy, you're speaking to the point of, if you stand on your principles, even when people are yelling at you, then you're a problem. That's why RBN is a problem, because
right.
we're not voting for Marianne. We're not doing that, and we're not supporting it. And the same thing for you. You're standing your ground, not supporting this or that, and that is a target, because your belief is supposed to be like fluid. You're supposed to be able to just some days I'm like this, because that's so used to that's such a thing, that how they operate, the establishment. It's like one day I'm for abortion, one day I'm not. Look at Joe Biden. One day he's for it, one day he's not. So when you Jimmy, when people over here at RBN, we say no, that's the final answer. We're standing on our principle, whether you like us or not. We don't care. We get the incoming fire. We're standing on this principle. That's what they never like. They will never give you the credit, Jimmy, for that, because of that reason.
And that's why they got to make Rumble seem like it's some kind of right-wing fucking network, because they're not going to censor us, and they're going to let us tell the truth. And if it grows to become a real competitor, which it looks like it may, that's real bad news for them. That's bad news for the establishment. So tip of the hat to Rumble for, and isn't it amazing? So who do you think owns Google? The fucking Boy Scouts? The fucking CIA runs the fucking Google, you assholes, and the WHO and Bill Gates, and the people we're all supposed to be fucking fighting against. Somehow they're trying to make Rumble bad because somehow Peter Thiel has something to do with it. Oh, it's as opposed to the fucking social workers who are running YouTube and fucking Google.
I already seen people call us out for. I already seen a few dum-dums that had to be trolls. That was like, oh, RBN sold out to Peter Thiel because we on Rumble, as if there's ethical consumption in social media use. Like you either Rumble or you got Google executives who hate the poor and hate the homeless as well.
Well, we have 625, Jimmy, conservatives watching us right now on Rumble. 625 conservatives are watching us, apparently. Go ahead, Nick.
My last thoughts, and I get you out here, Jimmy. I knew the COVIDian left lost their mind, because you guys heard the rant that Jimmy just went on exposing Pfizer and Fauci and them. What did you hear that was unreasonable? Like that's what I heard. I heard some right-wing crazy Trump people say stuff during the pandemic. I'm like, oh, that's kind of unreasonable. But even throughout your coverage, just questioning big pharma and questioning health decisions of the government never seemed unreasonable to me. I was on your show a few times. I remember the first time I was on your show, the first time I had you on my show, the pushback I got from the COVIDian left, as if I had fucking Hitler on, because they say you had Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dore's anti-vax. Jimmy Dore said this about COVID. And I'm like, even if he was wrong, I don't give a fuck. Like, how is that even something that we even weigh as a cancelable offense? Because as you just brought up how the WHO is funded by Bill Gates. So I had fake communists, fake socialists that's in my community that truly believe that we should not question an organization financed by capitalists like Bill Gates. How the fuck is that the communist position? How the fuck is it the communist position for us to follow the directions of Pfizer and Moderna? Anyway, Jimmy, that's my last thought. You want to take it from there? Like, it's so ridiculous.
The Black Caucus inside the Green Party got it right. The Green Party got it wrong. That's why they're fucking useless almost, right? Because they got Russiagate wrong, which led to the Ukraine war, and then they got fucking mandates wrong and shit. They got COVID wrong, but the Black Caucus inside the Green Party got it right.
Yeah, so the good news regarding that, RBN, we've been letting the Howie Hawking wing of the Green Party have it ever since he was on my show. We're going to have the Black Caucus of the Green Party on very soon. There's rumors that Howie Hawkins is considering running again. And if shit happens, we are going to shut that shit down. The only good news I have, because the Howie Hawkins set back the Green Party, hurt the Green Party so much. But, Jimmy, there are people in the Green Party, I talked to them, that acknowledge this. And they're going to be able to stop Howie Hawkins' movement, because John Mubraka said on our show that Howie Hawkins shouldn't even be a member of the Green Party. Like there is an active resistance, and I think we had a big part of this as well. We had a lot of people on. We're gonna spread this message, and that's what we're gonna try to do, because that Howie Hawkins wing is unacceptable. We need more of the Joe Stein, John Mubraka wing, which is still based, I believe. Anyway, Jimmy, last thoughts. This was a very fun show. Great Rumble opening weekend.
Congrats,
I appreciate you guys tuning in.
I wish you all great success. It's great to talk to you guys, and keep hitting it hard and keep telling the truth. And it's like that. These people think they can use they're like cult-like thinking, like you're not going to be in our group anymore if you think that, or if you platform that guy, all that. It's all cult thinking. And so don't it's like that old Woody Allen joke. It's like, I don't want to be, or I don't know who, maybe it's Groucho Marx, is that I don't want to be a member of a club that would have me as its member, right? And so I don't want to be part of your fucking groups. I don't want to be part of your fucking stupid groups. But it's fun, isn't it funny to watch people like breaking points? Like, what is the fucking point of them? Like, you just want to, you have one guy on that does mostly right-wing fucking think tank bullshit, and then you won't even hold that, the other person won't even hold the squad accountable for anything.
We called them out a long time ago, and I remember there was breaking points. People like, "Hey, RBN, what do you mean?" We remember CJ a long time ago. We was like, "What the fuck is up with breaking points?" Like over a year ago, and people were like, "Oh, you guys are just being mean." Now, especially after the RFK interview, they like, "Oh, now it's what you guys are talking about." We was warning you motherfuckers, and we saw this shift clearly when they decided to be the new mainstream. When they decided to be new corporate media, essentially. But Jimmy, sorry, go ahead.
My favorite was, I'd like to get into the vaccine, but we only have 5 minutes that I just made up.
Yes.
I'm on fucking YouTube. Everybody sees through you live. I'm going to make it look like you're the fucking guy who's wrong here. Okay. I'm going to have your bullshit premise of you only have 5 minutes. The reason why is because she knew she was going to get her fucking clock clean because he's right about vaccines, and she doesn't have the courage to actually cross that red line in fucking polite society and tell the truth about whatever happened in COVID, what happened with the lying FDA, and whatever he has to say about vaccine. She knows that she can't tell the truth about that because people aren't ready for it. Just like that's why she Russiagated. She always tried to fucking play both sides of it. So I don't understand what the point of that fucking show is anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy, thank you for joining us. We're going to get to some super chats before we wrap up. Make sure you guys check out Jimmy Dore, jimmydore.com. Thank you for joining us.
Okay,
as well.
thanks,
you, Jimmy.
So we're going to get to some super chats, and now I have to.
Wait, he was saying something. I think he was saying something.
Sorry.
Yeah,
all right. He's good.
I thought you were saying something. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm going to get to some super chats before we wrap up. Thank you for the 499 Colin. As I said on Twitter, Jordan vaguely calls you out, but cannot call out his friends who actively support Marianne Williamson. Yeah, there's people like you see people would try to criticize our position, but they try their best not to say our fucking name. They do it all the time. That's why that crystal ball interview when she was like, people don't want to support Marianne Williamson, they need to grow up. They think a third party. Who do you think she's talking about? She follows us. She follows me. She knows. So they do that all the time. It's obvious to me. Like Jordan, Sam Cedar, their crew does it a lot. Jordan Charlton's another one. We're a small channel, but we are exposed to how they are so far apart from the left that it's becoming glaringly obvious. So even though we have a tenth of their influence, they have to address the elephant in the room. Why aren't you as left as these people over here? You say you left, but you're not as left as them. Why not? So that's why they have to do these subtle jabs while at the same time not giving us a platform, because if they actually bring us on, then their audience may be exposed to true left ideas, and they will see why they're frauds. They're very sneaky. Thank you for $5 Fire Faye. Love you, RBN. Congrats on the launch. The Rumble launch has gone great. Like, we have videos that literally done more, and they compete with our YouTube. So we've been sleeping on Rumble for quite some time. That for sure. Make sure you check out Rumble if you watch on the YouTube side. Thank you for $20, James, for the Solidarity Super Sticker. Thank you for $10, Terry. Thank you, RBN and Jimmy, for all you do to keep us educated and informed. Yep, absolutely. You can't have any revolution without education. Do not listen to these people who want to dumb down the working class movement. No just vibes movement. We study. We learn from our mistakes, right? That's what we need. We need to be militantly organized and have intellectual discipline, which the dumb left on the NATO left purposely try to keep a dumb proletariat. And you did a great video a long time ago, CJ, where you say how Anna Kasparian cultivates a dumb left. Actually, I think I was there too. Actually, because that's
it was both of us. Yeah, it was both of us. Yeah,
it's not like they accidentally do bad coverage. Not like they accidentally shit. No, they want a dumb, fucking disorganized left that just run on vibes. Let's support Marianne Williamson. Let's support these stupid fucking progressive candidates. Is it gonna work? I don't know. Seems fun though. It should be fun on the campaign trail. Don't ruin my vibes. That's the boutique love for you. But anyway, thank you for the $10. Thank you for the 999. I said 999. Thank you for $5. Kristen 999. What's popping, my dudes? What's popping, homie? I got 5 on it. You guys look beautiful on Rumble. You are beautiful, my friend. I appreciate that. I think we're $2. Super Seamster Sewing Show. Congratulations, Bakerfield, keeping it real.
That's in California, Bakersfield, Cali.
Absolutely. So he's that's close to you, right? That's close to where you at, right?
It's not really close. It's like an hour and a half.
Okay, I don't know anything about California. I don't know anything about California.
It's inland. It's going towards Vegas or something.
Yeah, thank you for the $5. Charlo, algorithm nailed it for once. Thank you for the $5. Charlo, thank you for $5. Robert Escobar show. So what should people do? Play capitalism, stack cash, then bail out and live in another country? That's where I'm at. There's no fixing this shit. I had a conversation with Nico House a few weeks ago about this, and it's a very interesting topic. Because Nico was like, "Fuck this shit. I live in Brazil," and that seems like the move. Like when you see what's happening with the United States standing, our spending power, our economy, the way we are literally turning to fascists. The only thing stopping me from moving to other countries is the fact that I'm not bilingual. Like I want to learn Spanish, Portuguese. Once I learn Portuguese, I'm going to Brazil. I want to learn Brazil. I train jiu-jitsu down there. I'm good. I'm not in love with America. So when right wingers say, if you don't like this country, then get out. Like, bro, I'm just waiting for my fucking passport. If you gotta pay for it, I'm out. I'm not attached to this shit. And this is the inner dispute though. This is the conflict that I have. It is the conflict that all revolutionaries have. How much responsibility do we have on improving the quality of life for your family and your community? How much responsibility do you have in implementing and helping a revolution in any way possible? Is it kind of revolutionary to flee the fight? And I'm asking this rhetorically. I don't know, because Nico was said, hell no, it's not. Nigga, our job is to get as many motherfuckers out as possible. I know people that say, yeah, we should get out of the United States and organize an international resistance movement. These are things I really don't know the answer to. Like, I don't know the answer to this. I'm leaning towards the latter. Like, nigga, I'll move to Brazil. I'll work with Josana and the indigenous Brazilians, work with Lula and Lula love to help overthrow the empire. But I don't know. It's a very interesting topic. What do you do as a revolutionary? Do you flee or do you stay? This stuff that Marxist revolutionaries spoke about for quite some time. I think it's an interesting topic because I don't fall one way or another. I think there's nuance. I don't know, because I do think you got responsibility to improve your community, but at the same time, why should you be loyal to a land? Like, there's a country that has your values that you want to live there. You should fucking live there. Fuck that patriotism. So you guys see how I have both opinions. That's why I think it's interesting. It's not a simple answer. Anyway, thank you for the $10, Juliet. For the Solidarity Super Sticker. I appreciate the support today, my fam. I put up one of the Rumble rants. We will copy and paste Rumble rants as we get them. As I see them, I put one up so far while Jimmy was here. There's another one from Susanna.
There's another one? Okay.
Thank you for 999 for the Super Sticker. And the last one I saw Sam. Thank you for the 999. I love the interactive mindset. Rumble first, then Twitter Spaces, then chapters driving the movement. Let's say Twitter Spaces. That's actually something I was considering. I didn't know how I was going to implement it yet, but I was thinking about having a stream on YouTube and Rumble while I do a Twitter Space, so I can talk to people. And even
that would be good.
Yeah, I actually did something that around my mind ever since the Ron DeSantis announcement on Elon. That was a disaster, right? But Twitter's pushing that, and we will always benefit from expanding, especially seeing how YouTube censoring. Literally after the Ron DeSantis down, like maybe I should start doing like a cold Twitter Space YouTube show. Something I've been thinking about may come soon. That way, because I maybe can get pushback. Or maybe there'd be someone in the space that like, how dare you say we are Ukrainian Nazis? And you got to see I will handle that. That's another reason I want to do it, because I enjoy a good spar. But anyway, thank you guys for all the support, CJ. I'll be back on Monday. What do you have coming up?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, Monday I'm gonna take a day off. I'm actually sick, so I'm gonna take today and tomorrow off. So just to kind of rest and recuperate and get back into play. I'll play a outro video, everybody. I think we went through all the super chats and then we'll be done. Thanks, Nick. I will see you, sir. So let's play an outro video, and then we'll be actually. Let me do this. Our Substack. Here's our Substack. If you want to join our Substack, so you get notifications when we go live, join here. The other thing is a couple of shows. On Monday, we have this show, the Duopoly Left show. I'm sorry, the Post Duopoly show is on Monday around 8 p.m. Eastern. The Post Duopoly show is RBN, Heartlands Media, and Due Dissidence. That's going to be this Monday, so make sure you check us out. The other thing to promote is this. We're raising funds for, we have a Skid Row outreach in the Long Beach chapter of Revolutionary Blackout. The first event for the Long Beach chapter is this event, Saturday, June 17th, Skid Row. We're going to be giving out food and clothes. If you want to help, the email is outreach at revblack.network. revblacknetwork.com. You can see it on the screen. Send donations to Cash App, Mutual Aid Forever, or Venmo, Mutual Aid Forever. Now, when you donate, that's the money that we use to go buy the food and go buy the clothes. So the more you donate, the more we're able to buy, the more people we're able to help. So it's not really a target on there. It's whatever everybody can give. We'll calculate the total money, and then we'll go ahead and make the purchases and help the people that we can. So if you are able to contribute, please do. Is there one more announcement? We're also looking for people who want to be part of our online RBN family online. Is for doing like stuff like retweets and getting the word out about RBN. If you want to be part of that, you can DM us, and that's there at the bottom. I think I covered everything. Did I cover everything? I can bring up the website to kind of close this out for those that are brand new from Rumble. We do have a website that you can check out. Here it is. It's revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com. Let me throw up the link. Let me throw up the website here. So this is the website link here. And this is where you can go and see pictures, see our story, some of the things we believe in. You'll see the latest clips, emails down here. We got info and the outreach email. You can also see things like the RBN library that's in Detroit. You can see from the beginning, this is what it looked like in the beginning. So some of the renovations that was done. It's amazing to what it used to look like and what it looks like now. But it's showing some of the work here that they did to renovate this library or renovate this building into a library. And it's come together pretty beautifully if you wanted to check that out. Also, chapters. The chapters launched last month, and our first event for most of the chapters are in June. Yeah, Casey. Yeah, most of the chapters, they have an event in June, the first event. Here go some of the goals for our chapters: building a community library, diaper and baby supply giveaway, school supply giveaway, disabled community outreach, feeding the poor and unhoused. That's what we're doing in Skid Row on the 17th. Self-defense classes, that'll be handled out of the KC branch. Nick will be having that. Citizen journalists, that's in all of the branches. Tutoring, 8K through 8, that's in Long Beach. Arts and crafts, that's also in Long Beach. Youth basketball, that's also part of the Long Beach chapters. And then you can look at some of the chapters here: the Boston chapter, the Orlando chapter, the Detroit chapter, the Long Beach chapter. That's our website. You can go check all of this out on your spare time. Here is our contact email: info@revblacknetwork.com. And I think that's all of the announcements I needed to get to before we were gone. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Let me take this off the screen. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Let's see if I have anything good to take us out on. Do I? All right, so I'm looking at something here. All right, so let's play this as an outro. I guess this is pretty good to play as an outro. It's one of our videos breaking down the Jordan Sheraton interview with Marianne Williamson. and let's play.
He had to offer specifics on corruption regarding Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Honestly, I think he let Joe Biden get away with political murder in terms of his civil rights record, his record in terms of African Americans, mass incarceration. I understand, his attitude was run a positive campaign, no personal attacks, but you have to contrast. You have to sometimes play hardball. And I think whether somebody runs in the primary or as a third party, I mean, for example, Zephyr Teachout, who was a surrogate of Bernie Sanders in 2020, wrote a piece for The Guardian. It was fact-based. It pointed out that Joe Biden had some corruption issues, and Bernie's campaign, it was coming from Bernie, totally walked it back. If you run against Biden, are you willing to go there? I mean, not personal pot shots, but on his record, because I think the Democratic electorate was a lot of that got hid from them due to media and other resources.
Bernie is a U.S. senator. He is an institutionalist, and I think he had some assumptions, had some trust that if Biden won, we know he wanted to be labor secretary, then was not given that position and so forth. Bernie has done so much for this country and certainly has done so much for the progressive movement. I don't want to be taking out a baseball bat against Bernie here either. We all can look and we can learn.
So we're not going to learn from our mistakes because you're so worried about your stability politics. You're so worried about being mean to your friends that we're not going to critically analyze what went wrong and then correct our mistakes, because that's what you guys doing when you guys do this. You guys think I'm being mean to Bernie? No, I'm calling out the mistakes. With Jordan, proud to this question because it's a good question, because he brings up the fact that Bernie threw his own staff under the bus. Zephyr Teachout, who called out Biden criticism, threw him under the bus. So that go back to my original point. If we have people that wanted to throw people under the bus for calling out Democratic Party corruption, why would we invest in that campaign? Why would we invest in a movement that does that? So that's actually a good point for Jordan there. But why would we do that? And why aren't you having the ability to critically analyze what happened there? You essentially dodged Jordan's question. Like, imagine that. But let's continue.
It's such a, just think about that. A politician can't comment, and you want to run for president, but you can't speak critically, logically, without being offensive. You mean you can't speak about any of your friends that do anything bad, that does anything wrong? Why would we want you as a leader for? Don't you know a lot of the people that in the establishment didn't you meet them when you ran? Didn't you form relationships? So why are we to think she's not going to apply this sort of logic to everybody if we try to get her elected? She is so not for this moment. Nick, I cannot stress that enough. Like, she is so not for this moment. She's not even right for 2020 or 16. I think she's more 2008. She is that far behind as far as I'm concerned. So
obviously I can tell you this much. I have said this to many people. If I do this, I'm not doing this just to make a point. I've already made a point. And I can also tell you as a writer, if you want to make a point much easier with a lot less stuff thrown at you, you don't run.
It's easier. You see how easy? So even the men, it's easier. We don't want to do movement building. That's hard. That's the hard work. It's easier for me to get my publicity, for me to benefit what I want to accomplish instead of building a movement. But continue the video. I want to hear the rest of the point.
If I run for president, I can tell you that much. If I run for president, I am really running for president, and that should be the answer to your question.
When you say make a point, are you willing?
What does that mean? You see no evidence. It's that I'm not just running to run, and when I'm running for president, I'm running for president. That should be an answer. What the fuck does that mean? Go ahead, Nick. What does that mean?
Actually, Jordan, I think, is going to ask her the question again, because I told you, Marianne Williamson dodged Jordan's question.
Wow.
This is the person that you guys wanted to draft as the left leader. And I won't play the clip because I think Jordan, like, hey, I want to get back to the question. I
didn't see it this far, so I don't know if he does.
Rewind like 10 seconds. Rewind 10 seconds. Rewind 10 seconds, then play it again. I want to make sure I get it right before I speak on this.
Okay.
Because I pointed out before she didn't answer the question.
Okay, I think we're here.
Part of the Democrats will be to invisibilize my candidacy.
Oh shit!
They will be.
Hang on, my second. I went way too far back. I meant to go right about here.
As a U.S. senator, he is an institutionalist, and I think he had some assumptions, had some trust that if Biden won, we know he wanted to be labor secretary, then was not given that position, and so forth. Bernie has done so much for this country, and certainly has done so much for the progressive movement. I don't want to be taking out a baseball bat against Bernie here either. We all can look and we can learn. Obviously, I can tell you this much. I have said this to many people. If I do this, I'm not doing this just to make a point. I've already made a point. And I can also tell you as a writer, if you want to make a point much easier with a lot less stuff thrown at you, you don't run for president. So if I run for president, I can tell you that much. If I run for president, I'm really running for president. And that should be the answer to your question.
Well, you said make a point. Are you willing on the debate stage to point out the donors? I mean, Biden at this point is trying to privatize Medicare under the cloak of darkness. There's a lot of issues.
Wait, there's no evidence. Now, wait a minute. There's no evidence that Joe Biden is trying to privatize.
What? Wait, what? Wait.
She's defending Biden. He's asking, are you going to critique him? And instead, she's coming in to defend Biden.
There is no way. So Jordan tries his best to give her a question that is easy to answer. Jordan asked her, if you run, unlike Bernie Sanders, he said, unlike Bernie Sanders, who threw his colleague under the bus for calling out his corruption, will you do what Bernie Sanders did not and call out Biden's corruption? And then she go on the word salad where she said, I'm not going to throw Bernie under the bus. Then Jordan like, oh, God damn it. Let me ask you it again. He's trying to save her. All right, so I'm trying to ask you, are you going to be critical of Biden and his policies? And she's like, well, I don't know. Then you start defending Biden. You can't make this up.
He knows how bad it looks at the time. He knows that this is not. I can't have this be what it was to Nina Turner with the Mike Figueredo interview. I can't have this happen here. He's trying to clean this up because I think Jordan picks up that, hey, this is not sounding that great. This is not going to sound that great. Let me kind of clean this up for you.
Ties Medicare under the cloak of darkness. The Republicans are certainly trying to do that.
Well, no, I mean, David Sirota has reported that he's kept a lot. Biden has.
Their savior, their journey to savior has wrote about this. So she's like, oh, you motherfucker gonna bring me on here to do this.
So then Jordan's like, wait, you don't stop. No, David Schroeder said that. Come on. Bro, he gave her a toss up. And then she started defending Biden and lied about Biden. And once again, props to Jordan for bringing this up. I will give him credit for bringing this line of questioning up because it's kind of exposed Marianne. Because he tried to get her to say that she would be critical of Biden, which will like alleviate left criticism of her. Like I said, remember on my show, I said that I was like, Marianne, I don't like the fact that you're too soft on these people. She's like, Nick, you saying I'm too soft? And then she proceeds to prove my point correct on Jordan's show. I said on my show that you're too soft on Biden, and then she proves it by defending him on a lie.
All she has to say is, yes, I will combat it. You don't have to go in your question, I didn't like what you said about Joe Biden, so let me, just answer the question. That's not the point of the question, but you're so offended by the premise of the question, you have to interject. Yeah, we really feel secure that you're going to go at Joe Biden now. We really feel secure after this answer.
She already a Biden surrogate. That's a good comment.
Joe Biden is trying to privatize Medicare under the cloak of darkness. The Republicans are certainly trying to do that.
Well, no, I mean, David Sirota has reported that he's kept a lot. Biden has continued a lot of President Trump's policies that was essentially backdoor trying to privatize elements of Medicare.
This is the person you guys want to do a dirty break with. This is the person you guys want to do a dirty break with. I want to hear her response. Go ahead, play it. I was going to add that.
Oh, you don't want to hear it. You see the body language. You can tell she is not happy here. She's not happy. She thought she came on a friendly progressive Democrat network but she ran into Jordan, who has been criticized by RBN, and I think he has made some adjustments here.
Joe Biden is trying to privatize Medicare under the cloak of darkness. The Republicans are certainly trying to do that.
Well, no, I mean, David Sirota's report.
He's not a sexist when he interrupts her. He's not a sexist right now. Let's see if it ends with her calling him a man. Are you mansplaining?
Yeah, is
right
Jordan
now?
mansplaining? Gee, wow.
Reported that he's kept a lot. Biden has continued
Look
a lot
at her
of
body
President
language
Trump's
change.
policies that was essentially backdoor trying to privatize elements of Medicare.
Hair twist.
Well, I have not seen that particular David Sirota coverage, but I will certainly look at it.
But this is the person we want. This person who's not informed. You're not informed on the basic crimes of what Biden is doing, but you're the person that we're supposed to annoy.
So she swoops in to play Captain Save-A Joe, then finds out there's receipts. So she doesn't go, okay, Jordan, I trust you as a journalist that you're repeating what David Sirota said, another journalist, as true. So if he does, then yes. Instead, she says, I haven't read it, so I'm basically not going to comment on it because you got to prove to me that Joe Biden is terrible. Like you can't see it with your own eyes.